The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.
Empire.
Gatorade is global aid.
And what we like to do with these teams is, try our products, offer this innovation firsthand to athletes, work hand by hand with our scientists to ensure that the innovation we are testing is legit.
That's Xavi Cortadellas, head of innovation and design at Gatorade, where the good old days provide folklore and the future means performance. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Gatorade helped Florida's football team become a powerhouse, and then it became a symbol of a championship getting dumped with the drink. It's as synonymous as going to Disney World. The work there is fascinating, though, and Xavi Cortadellas will walk us through their innovations. Plus, PlaySight is helping youth travel teams find streaming solutions. Their vice president, Scott McMeekin, will join us. But the future is now for the NFL playoffs. Over the last few years, the NFL has fought a real and perceived dip in interest in their product, which by any calculation still remains the preeminent sports league entity in the United States. But it doesn't mean that they aren't taking action to ensure the next generation of fans keep coming back. Megan Graham from CNBC.com joins us now. They've got to deal with TikTok, and we should probably start there. Many of our listeners probably know what that is, but for those who don't, what is TikTok?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Bram. Have you ever been on TikTok, I have to ask?
I have been on it, yes.
Okay. So I downloaded it a couple months ago just to, we were hearing about it so much. It's growing so quickly, and I'm so addicted now. It's so much fun. So it's kind of weird when you first download it because it's just this kind of endless scroll of short videos, and some are really funny, some are, kind of music, people lip syncing. That's kind of where the platform came from. Its roots are with Musical.ly, which was kind of lip syncing to songs. Some of it is, dancing along, different routines. So there's all this different stuff, and the algorithms kind of learn what you like really quickly, and they kind of tailor to you what you're seeing based on like what you tend to watch all the way through or multiple times. And then, if you want to share your own videos, the effects are amazing. Like you can do all sorts of kind of goofy, weird effects that, you could see in a movie, or, make your face bigger or smaller into a fruit or something. It's just all sorts of goofy stuff. So teens absolutely love it. And it's been kind of taking the sort of social media world by storm in the last year or so.
So why did the league work something out with them?
Well, I'm not a big football watcher, but from what I understand, the league has been just having more trouble with Gen Z, and Gen Z, of course, is generally speaking, it's teenagers at this point. I think part of it, I've read, because kids aren't playing football at the level they used to because of concussion concerns and things like that. It's also kind of interesting because I think some sports have lended themselves better to this sort of new social world, like soccer just sort of plays really well with the streaming world. Something like basketball, where you see their faces and you're so close to the court, those sort of video moments are very viral and shareable because you can see the looks on their face. Whereas football, I think from what I understand, it kind of lended itself so well to network TV, where you had sort of 6 minutes of go, 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 and then commercial break. And it's a little bit different when you're looking at the streaming world. And also, their faces are covered by helmets. So I think just generally speaking, there haven't been these sort of like super viral football moments that there have been in other sports. And basically what the NFL is trying to do is change that. I think they're trying to say, hey, we want to pull back the curtain, show you guys some fun moments, show you guys personality of our players, and kind of make you feel like you know them better, and hope that that will translate to kids teenagers, whatever you want to call them, tuning in more.
You know, what's really interesting about that is that, okay, so you don't get to see the players' faces, and then that's been a difference here for some of these other sports as they transition into what is different content consumption. It seems to be preferable content consumption. And the NFL has this issue with concussions. And they could, I don't think they ever will, but they could perceive this as the door opening to, if our popularity is based on the players being seen and recognized more, and we think that there'd be less concussions if we took the helmets off of the players because they wouldn't use their heads as weapons. It's an interesting thought process as you think about the future.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that, but absolutely. And it is kind of interesting to, just to see these, because there are moments here in these videos that are clips of them on the field or whatever, but for sure, I think, maybe you're not used to seeing them as much, just kind of, having fun on the field or whatever, very close up.
Will there be exclusive content for TikTok, or is it that kind of deal?
It should be interesting to see. I'm not totally certain. They wouldn't get into a ton of specifics about what it'll be going forward, but for now, they have the new NFL account, so they're basically just posting behind-the-scenes stuff, little memes and things like that. There's going to be, they say, weekly content going forward for the next 2 years. And then they did so on TikTok, when a sort of a brand takeover, what they'll do is they do a hashtag challenge. So basically a brand will say, okay, we're going to pay however much for a couple days, and they sort of design a hashtag, and then they say, okay, we're going to hire influencers to come and to post things with this hashtag on the theme. So when Chipotle did this over the summer, it was like the Chipotle lid flip challenge, and then they paid influencers to basically post their own lid flip challenge and kind of get some momentum going. So the NFL is probably going to do some more of those. And then they also said they're going to be doing some sort of partnerships with other brands as well. So that could mean, we'll just see. I don't know if that'll be like athletic apparel, if it'll be other sort of publisher shows or anything like that. But yeah, it should be interesting to see kind of the avenues that they go down. For now, we don't know a ton of detail, but I think they are showing some behind the scenes sort of things that I don't know that you can see anywhere else at this point.
Megan Graham from CNBC.com. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Graham. Bye.
Up next, Xavi Cortadellas on how Gatorade continues to innovate the idea of replenishing the body. This is the Future Sport Podcast.
Was that they expended so much energy early in the game that they had none left for the end. So we devised a drink of carbohydrate and electrolytes that speeds into the system and supplies everything they need for energy production. Naturally, we named it Gatorade.
Whatever these guys came up with worked. Because when the Gators came out the second half, they were a different team.
Well, folks, I figured the Gators coach had some stern words to say to his players because they're playing the third quarter as if their life depended on it.
They've come a long way from those days where the goal was to turn the hometown Gators into a powerhouse. Our guest this week is Xavi Cortadellas, who is the head of innovation and design at Gatorade. Hey there, Xavi. How are you?
Hey, all good. Thanks for hosting me today.
It used to be, or at least the commercials tell us, a couple of chemists in a Gainesville lab. What's Gatorade now?
Gatorade's a lot of things. So we would like to say that we are evolving to become the sports nutrition company. So definitely growing and expanding our portfolio to offer more than the sports drink.
You guys have a sports science lab. There's a good profile of it on Fast Company if you want to see it. What is the purpose of that? Can you kind of take us through it?
Yeah, all the innovation that we do is backed by science. That has been on the backbone of the brand since the beginning when Dr. Kate created Gatorade back in the day. and still science is on our DNA. So what we do is we partner very closely with the Gatorade Sports Science Institute on all the projects that we develop. And as part of this science support, we like to test and pilot a lot of our innovations on the field. So one of the labs that we have is at IMG Academy. The other one is at Frisco. We have another one in Barrington, and then an international team based in the UK. And what we like to do with these teams is, try our products, offer this innovation firsthand to athletes, work hand by hand with our scientists to ensure that the innovation we are testing is legit, and collect all this feedback. So it's a kind of daily work with our science team, just to ensure that all our products are backed by science, and all our products provide utility to athletes.
So tell us a little bit about the modern athlete. What have you learned about the modern athlete?
Definitely, it's a constant evolution, right? But I will say probably two things, on how we define modern athlete versus kind of in the past. One is the awareness of sports nutrition. Athletes right now are athletes 24/7, and they are taking care a lot of their bodies. What they eat, how much they sleep, how they recover, how they train. This holistic view on sports nutrition, it's a very interesting space for us, because that means that beyond providing hydration on the point of sweat and during the active occasion, we could help these athletes to fuel 24/7. That's one thing. And probably the other one is how athletes are integrated technology in their day-to-day, and they are kind of, monitor everything that they are doing. They interact with digital platforms. Teams are collecting more data. With this data, they help athletes to make smart choices. So this integration of technology and sports is, changing athletes' lives, and we believe that the sports nutrition could also be part of this trend.
So let's talk about the science here a little bit. How has it changed here as you create these new products?
The science, I will say that the science has not changed. So it's kind of an athlete is an athlete, and kind of the way athletes hydrate and fuel has been the same for many, many years. The way we are applying this science is that probably thanks to technology, what in the past was only accessible to a few athletes and to a few professional teams, where we had the ability to deploy our scientists on the field, now we are trying to democratize that. So what we want is, leverage this science and kind of via technology expand this to everyday athletes. A good example of that is what we call the sports field personalization platform. So for many years, Gatorade has been working side by side with athletic trainers, strength coaches, etc., in professional teams to help athletes to feel better. What we want is that this type of service, via technology, to be accessible for every kid in the U.S. who is into team sports or even into endurance sports. So it's basically the science is the same, but in the past was only accessible to a few. Now what we want to do is democratize that via technology.
So how do you go about doing that? How do you make this accessible to people?
So basically, one example of that is kind of multiple projects are related to that. One thing that we are doing is expanding our product portfolio, right? So there are multiple choices that athletes could get in. But the trigger here is, how we make athletes smarter and kind of how to navigate, the different solutions that they can opt in. So one of the projects that, for instance, we have been working over the last few years is a smart sweat patch. We call it the GX sweat patch. That what we are offering the athletes the ability to self-diagnose themselves and figure out how much they are sweating and what type of sweaters they are. They could use the patch, apply this patch on their forearm, and kind of take a picture of this patch, and via image recognition, create a sweat profile in real time. This sweat profile will help them to know how much they are sweating and what are the best products and the best sports fuel plans that they could use on an active occasion, and also extend also into recovery and kind of pre and post sports fuel recommendations. So it's an example of a technique, the sweat patch that we have been using for years, but now we are making this sweat patch smarter via technology and offering that to everyday athletes. So you don't need a scientist or go to a lab to analyze your sweat. Now you could do that yourself and basically democratize this access to modern science.
Let's talk about the brand for a moment here. Obviously, there's major brand equity with the name Gatorade, and yet you're talking about growing and going into different spaces. So how do you guys go about differentiating yourself in what is now a very competitive marketplace?
Yeah, the marketplace it's fragmenting. So obviously there are kind of new brands coming into our space, and it's a reality. If you go today to your grocery store or to your convenience store, that more brands are getting in all categories, and sports drinks and sports nutrition is not different than that. Our point of view is that, we want to be the number one brand, and to do that, that means to be backed by science and to be working with professional teams and leverage this access that we have to professional teams to come up with the best products. The type of access that we have is unique. There is no other brand in the world that has this type of access. That allows us to have first-hand insights of what works, what doesn't work for professional teams, and we want to be the brand to offer this technology, this innovation to everyday athletes. So we believe that being backed by science and working with pro teams, that will keep us on the leadership position. And yes, we welcome competition. Sports is about competition. We like to have other brands, playing on the same space than us, and that only helps us to, keep improving and offer our best.
I mean, it seems that this goes back and forth here. There's a lot to learn from working with the teams and the athletes, and they have a lot to learn from you. Can you kind of talk about the toggle in that relationship now?
Yeah, we try. That's a very good point. Is when you work with innovation, when you work with science, and you work with professional teams, at the end, the direction needs to be bidirectional, right? So you cannot force the teams and say, hey, I want to test this product and kind of get these insights and go back to the lab and don't get back to the team. You need to provide utility to the teams. You need to provide a benefit to the team. So our playbook is basically to work very closely with what we call the influencers. That could be the athletic trainer, the strength coach, the dietitian in the team, and figure out what are the problems that the staffing have and how we could make their jobs easier and offering them better solutions. So being a partner of this influencer and offering these solutions, these technologies, this new innovation to them, we could then get good feedback about these products, good feedback about this innovation, and potentially scale up this innovation to everyday athletes. So as long as the relationship goes in both ways, that we are providing a service and a benefit to the team will be excited to collaborate with us and bring these insights back to our innovation pipeline, and we could be able to then expand this to consumers. So as long as the direction is the relationship is bidirectional, that works very well on both parties.
And you said here that the science hasn't changed very much, but the athlete has. There's a lot more information and clearly a different level of care that they're taking with their own bodies, and clearly the teams are thinking this way as well. What have you learned about recovery, whether it incorporates the products or not, that are best practices for athletes?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that probably the number, kind of the big news here is the awareness, right? So I think in the past, and I'm not an old guy, so it's kind of when I talk in the past, I try to be cautious on that. But I think in the past, athletes focus a lot on kind of, what exactly they were doing on in the game. And then after the game, it was a little bit kind of free flow for everyone. Now, athletes start thinking on the next practice, on the next game, immediately when they finish their game. So it's kind of this awareness of what you will do immediately after kind of your ice bath, your sports smoothie, your nutrition shake, kind of how much you are sleeping, etc. All these little variables will get ready for your next game, your next training. And athletes care about that, and we are seeing examples of athletes that are having, longer careers, less injuries, that they are performing at their best when they are kind of on their late 30s or early 40s, right? That means that these athletes are taking care of themselves, and they see recovery as part of, their lives as athletes. And I think that this trend is going mainstream right now. It's kind of, athletes, everyday athletes are also taking care of themselves, and kind of overall population kind of try to be more active and kind of train more, etc. That's big, and that makes athletes better on the field, but that makes all of us kind of healthier individuals. So I think that this notion of recovery, and that recovery matters for your performance and for your overall health, less injuries, etc., that's the number one change. The science has not changed. It's just the awareness that the athlete has that makes these things more relevant.
Yeah, I think, listen, diet has been talked about, nationally and probably internationally as well. Being active has been talked about. They've been points of emphasis politically here in recent years. Of all these things that you're talking about, how much of it have you seen filter down into youth and amateur sports?
I will say a lot of that. So I think, obviously, youth sports, these, young kids, they look at pro athletes and what they are doing, and they try to kind of mirror them. So everything that is happening at the pro level affects youth sports. And, the awareness on kind of healthy choices and kind of healthy products, that's out there. The awareness on kind of a balanced diet, kind of proper nutrition, proper rest, etc., that's very important for kids, not only for their performance on the field, it's also, how they are learning at school, right? So we believe that all this space is a very rich space for us as a lead brand to have a point of view and try to provide this utility to athletes. It could be, from kind of monitoring sleep, monitoring sweat, help athletes get hydrated before, during, and after practice, help athletes on their nutrition. So there is this awareness kind of affecting athletes of all ages, gives us a lot of business opportunities, but also a lot of opportunities to educate athletes. And many of the services and platforms that we are developing, it's more about to drive awareness and education more than specifically selling products. We believe that helps us also to define ourselves as a leaders in the space, and for us to make athletes smarter about their overall choices in terms of lifestyle, in terms of sports nutrition, etc. That will make athletes better and will make us better also as a brand.
I'll ask you one final brand question as we let you go. I wonder this, does it ever bother you to see Gatorade get wasted when someone dumps it on a winning coach?
It's a good question, and I need to say yes. That kind of surprised me. I'm not American, as you could tell by my accent, and the whole tradition of the dunk kind of said, wait a minute, what these guys are doing with all this product? And then I learned, talking with my colleagues, that even kind of when kind of whatever the coach is wearing and kind of gets stained with the dunk, that has kind of some value even in the market. That's a memorable piece. So I think that it's a fantastic tradition, and even the fact that this has been something that has grown organically across multiple sports and has been created not by the brand, it has been created by the athletes. I think it's a true testimony of kind of how much Gatorade is kind of embedded into the DNA of American sports. So, being non-American, for me, it's a fantastic tradition, and I will love it to see it, across more sports outside the U.S.
Yeah, it's the greatest free commercial of all time, I think. may have ended up being that way.
You say it better than me.
Xavi Cortadellas is the head of innovation and design at Gatorade. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Up next, travel teams have a solution to their streaming needs with the innovative group PlaySight. Their vice president, Scott McMeekin, joins us next. This is the Future Sport Podcast. So let's take a minute here to thank our friends at 3Advance. These guys are ranked one of the nation's top app developers, but that's not all. They've helped grow a bunch of sports tech startups like Team Builder, T-Box Tour, and In-Game Fantasy. but they're also experts in user experience, cloud APIs, and artificial intelligence. So if you're looking for a dev partner to bring your future sport tech to life, look these guys up. Go to 3advance.com. They're the team to make it happen, and advance you will. That's the number 3advance.com, and tell them Future Sport sent you. Our guest this week is Scott McMeekin. He's the vice president at PlaySight, which has offerings that include data analytics for player development to live streaming and automating sports productions around the world. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me on.
I mean, it's kind of a general overview. I'll let you explain it. What do you guys do?
Well, for sure. I appreciate it. You know, we do a number of things. I think the easiest way is just to explain it as we connect various courts, fields, and rinks to the internet. And then once you're connected, you know, there's a ton of different things that we do.
I'm really actually quite interested in the travel sports stuff. It seems very unique to what you guys are doing. How are you jumping into that world and helping them innovate?
Yeah, for sure. So we serve lots of different markets from the pro level to collegiate to high school, and then certainly to the youth sports market that you just highlighted. And we've got a showcase here actually in Atlanta that we work with called Lake Point. And if you can picture, probably the most, unbelievable fields and facilities you've ever seen in your life with 129 PlaySight cameras on them. That's one of our showcase customers where we innovate. And they're going to have lots of fans and players that go there and have an experience unlike anywhere else in the country. And so what's really happening from a parent perspective, from a coach perspective, and then certainly from a facility perspective, there's various benefits that we offer. You know, think about yourself as a dad. I've got some kids, and being able to actually capture the moments when they get that home run, or they get that dunk. My wife can't always travel with us, so her ability to actually watch remotely and live stream is certainly a huge benefit. And then when players are at these events, they have the ability to get coaching tools and access to tools that are used by most of the NBA, Major League Baseball teams, and so they're getting that pro level experience at places like Lake Point and lots of other facilities that we work with.
Not to be too pushy about it, but I'm curious about the business model behind that. In that, I get it with youth sports if we're watching LeBron James' kid and there's an audience that would want to see him or the other up-and-coming stars of whatever sport we're talking about. No offense to my kids, they're not going to be playing in the NBA or the NHL, and I get my wife might want to live stream into the game I'm at with my child because he's playing baseball or whatever it is, but where's the model there if there's not a large audience that goes along with it?
Yeah, for sure, and it does differ depending on what the sport. So certainly baseball is different from volleyball, which is different from basketball. We have a variety of customers that have different models. I'll tell you what we are seeing is, parents want to show up to a facility like Lake Point and have a great experience as part of that. And, we're doing some different models, quite frankly, based on the event. And using customer and consumer feedback to determine what is the best model. There's going to be some events, to your point, where it's maybe the quality of the basketball is not as high end as when a LeBron is there, and so that model is going to be different. And so there's going to be some models where you pay a resort fee and you come on campus and you get access to everything. And then there'll be some other models where it's more a la carte. And so depending on the level of play, depending on the type of tournament, we're prepared to offer each of those models. The most important thing is that they've got an experience unlike anywhere else in the country. And so it's certainly a dynamic, market because you also have lots of interest from sponsorships, and obviously that changes some of the economics as you go through it.
Where did you see this hole? How did you guys come up with this idea to try to cater to the travel sports teams?
We've been working with facilities and with youth sports for a long time. And I think it originally came from our founder watching his daughter play tennis and really realizing that there's no technology on the court. And so it's really has started from that. And as you start looking at facilities, travel sports are primarily the user of those facilities. And so that's sort of how it started, and it's really taken off. Most of us on the team have kids, and we're involved in travel sports, and we want the best experience for our kids when they go to these facilities. And you'd be surprised, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but there's a lot of inefficiencies to it, and you have a lot of parents that are holding up their phones and maybe not getting the greatest angle.
Yeah.
And they're having to go to their own resources to kind of create these highlight clips into college coaches. And so the opportunity to automate that was something that has worked.
Well, listen, the parents make the worst highlights ever, and they flood Facebook with it over years and years. So talk to me about the quality here. What do you get? What does a parent get if they attend one of these facilities and they get a highlight package of their kid or their kid's team?
Yeah, for sure. So when we connect courts and rinks and fields to the internet, we will connect anywhere from one camera to 8 cameras. So here at Lake Point in Atlanta, on their baseball fields, we have 7 cameras on each field connected to the internet. And so the parent can come and watch the live stream of that game, and then get a highlight package after the event with all 7 angles. And those angles could be slowed down, they could be drawn upon. You could take multiple games and put them together. And so having that ability to just look at a pitch, both from what we call the high home view, and then also either the third base side or the opening side on the first base side, is a view that college scouts really want to see.
Let's talk about some of the bigger clients that have potential audiences attached to them: colleges, pros, high schools, with live streaming and the automated broadcast part of this. Who are you working with, and what are the capabilities there?
Yeah, so for sure, certainly at a pro level, they've got certainly a lot of, they don't need a whole lot of help with their live streaming. The NBA has that figured out. Is what we say, but they certainly use it in their practice gyms. The NHL uses it in their practice facilities, and so what a lot of the professional level teams will do is do a private live stream. And so if a coach, if a GM, if an owner is not at that facility, they will live stream privately what's going on in their gym for that practice. We see this in Major League Baseball, where there's a spring training going on down in Florida or Arizona. The owner's not there but wants to see what's going on. They will privately live stream it. You get down into the college market, and you certainly have the Power 5 and the networks. They often will have to bring in at a significant expense a crew of people to film those games, to feed it to the ACC network or the Pac-12 network. And so there's an opportunity there to automate the production of those events through our technology. And then you get further into the D2, D3, they are certainly looking for a network-type experience that a lot of the top D1 schools have, and we offer that as well. And then jumping down into the high school market, we're seeing quite a bit of high schools that want to not just broadcast maybe the championship football game, but want to broadcast soccer, baseball, football, gymnastics, graduation, some of the performing arts. So we're seeing high schools jump on this as well.
I'm sure they all ask you the same thing because this all sounds amazing, but can it be done affordably? So what do you tell them when they're like, yeah, we'd love to have that. How do we do it?
Yeah. That's certainly one of the things that we try to understand right up front is what are they trying to accomplish? These are professional level tools, and how can we bring them to that audience at a price point that makes sense? And so, an NBA team might have 8 cameras in their gym. We might do a 3-camera installation at a high school gym. We can go down and do a 1-camera setup. And so we try to, adjust the scope based on what the economics might need to be. I think we also focus on who are the early adopters going to be of this technology that are willing to invest. It's certainly new technology, and it's elite level tools, and so it's it is not it's not free by any means, and so that's something we work with our customers on.
As for like player analytics and improvement in that realm, what are you guys offering there?
Yeah, so we started with tennis, and that's really where we got going and got underway. And that product has a number of capabilities where you hop on a court, and it'll tell you the speed of your serve, it'll tell you the spin rate, it'll tell you how many steps you ran. And there's a ton of analytics that break down your hour or your 10 minutes on the court. You jump into different sports like basketball and baseball, obviously the analytics change. We're doing some things in basketball where, if you understand what's going on the scoreboard, you can create an event, and that event can be tagged, and you can associate a 3-pointer to a video. Similarly in baseball, if they're based on different data that's being served up to the scoreboard, you can tag those events. You can use cameras just like we do in tennis to tell you the speed of a pitch. And so we're certainly doing lots of things in other sports, and quite frankly, talking to our customers and understanding what it is that they want us to include, and then where it makes sense for us to partner.
So where do you want to see the tech improve over the next 3 to 5 years?
It's going to be interesting over the next how fast it goes. In the next 5 years, I would love to see all of the courts and fields and rinks connected to the internet in some form or fashion. And then as new technologies and new ways of breaking down film are created, those can be pushed through the cloud to these facilities. And so I think you're going to continue to see that be the case. And, parents are going to get more access to more video. They're going to be able to sit at home and change camera angles and see, little Johnny playing second base from as many angles as they want.
It's really cool. Scott McMeekin is the Vice President at PlaySight. Thanks so much for joining us, Scott.
Hey, appreciate it, Bram.
That will do it for us this week. Remember, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3 Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3 Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.